Parts my belly emptier than it had ever been, and so I started to pray. It had been forever since I turned my eyes to my maker. I broke down and I cried. Suddenly a voice rang out through the air so loud and clear, in answer to my prayer. You had told me to follow your pillar of fire. It filled my nights with light, and your clouds of glory, they took me to the heights that my heart so desired. I left the wilderness with my heart on fire, burning up to quench my thirst to see your light. And now I'm swimming in your deepest waters. I can't get up, won't you take me higher? Told me to follow your pillar of fire. It filled my nights with light, and your clouds of glory, they took me to the heights that my heart so desired. Oh, and the water that flowed so miraculously from a rock in the desert, it had finally quenched the thirst that I had in my heart to bask in your glory. The wilderness with my heart on fire, burning up to quench my thirst to see your light. And now I'm swimming in your deepest waters. I can't get up, won't you take me higher?
Okay, everybody, this was supposed to start about 45 minutes ago, but yeah, things happened. I'm Baruch Hashem going to be having a celebration of the family soon, and this entire week I'm just running around. Things a little bit crazy, but thank God we're here.
Don't forget to get a haircut.
Yes, I do need to get a haircut.
Welcome back, everybody. Please smash that like button.
Yes.
Hopefully you find these videos informative and
entertaining.
That's right. If you could, please support us with Patreon.
Oh, yes.
Support the cause.
Yes.
Let's get started. Let's get right into it.
Let's do it. All right. So between all the confusion, I actually had to use two of these because I left one in one place and I was somewhere else. And so we're going to be reading out of two at different times. See what I do for you guys?
Did you have to put that out there?
Yeah, so we're going to start with this week's Parshah. What's the name of the Parshah?
You tell me.
Okay, this week is Shoftim. This week's Parshas Shoftim. You know I'm going to ask you this every single week.
Mm-hmm.
You know I'm going to ask you every week.
Yeah.
So you got to be ready.
I'm getting there.
I'm just messing around. So the beginning of this parsha starts off talking about Shoftim and Sheiter, right? That you're supposed to have judges and policemen, right? Basically to be in charge to enforce the law.
Keep order.
Right. And on a deeper meaning, it says to have them b'chol sharecha, on all your gates, all your entrances. What is the entrance of a human being?
All the orifices.
Right. So, for example, the
ears,
the mouth,
eyes.
Right, the eyes.
Right.
So, in a deeper level, what the pasuk is saying is you have to make sure that you're guarding yourself from hearing not good things, from seeing not good things. Right, today it's especially big challenge. You know what you eat.
So this is the first time in history we see them funding the police, not defunding the police. Gotcha.
Judaism is very pro-police when they, obviously, when they're not corrupt, but yes. Yeah, so we got to make sure that we eat the right stuff, and also it's a two-way entrance. So we also have to make sure that what you're saying, right? You're saying good things, that you're not allowing. Sometimes you have not nice thoughts, and if you're not or you're angry or whatever it is, if you're not careful, you let it out of the entrance, it could hurt somebody else.
It is actually a sin to look at somebody who's infuriated.
Who is
Infuriated, like who's
who's angry?
Very angry. You're not supposed to look them in the eye.
How come?
You're not supposed to look them in the eyes because they will affect you with their fury.
So it's contagious.
Yes.
Interesting. That's good to know. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the meat and potatoes. So one of the things it says. This is just a regular. This is just a story about someone. His name was. I'm forgetting his name. He was a very, very big rabbi, and he was one time in the. This has to do with doing fair judgments, being just. He had something to do with. He had some disagreement with another Jewish person, and so. The way to resolve a disagreement when it comes, between two Jews is you go to the Beit Din. You go to the Jewish court of law, and he started explaining. He was a big rabbi. He was one of the leaders of the generation then. The Ksav Sefer brings this down in the name of his father, the Chassam Sefer, and he says this story that this particular rabbi. So he started explaining why he's correct, what's his claim, and the rabbis there mentioned to him that he himself had written, he wrote responsa, he wrote different texts, different works. He actually wrote the exact opposite at another time.
Okay.
He wrote the exact opposite of what he had said now. He wrote the exact opposite in his book. So, and right away he realized his mistake, and he forgot he didn't make that connection. It was an honest mistake, and he right away obviously accepted the judgment that they made on him, even though he was a very, very great rabbi. But this shows us, number one, his humility, and also the fact that even someone as great as him, it said, what's the saying? Ein adam dan chevel atzmai. A person won't find himself guilty. A person, because a person is karv eitzel atzmai, we naturally have a love for ourselves, and we never want to be in a place, where we are guilty or we have to do something we don't want to do. So therefore, we'll find all types of excuses why we're right. And it happened even over here, where someone who had, through Torah, reached the conclusion that's the opposite of what he wrote, right? Just because he was trying to find the way to be right according to the law. So how much more so by us? We have to always make sure that we have people who hold us accountable.
Okay, I accept the challenge.
You have to know the name of the parsha from now
That's
on.
true.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, and it's actually very interesting because the story is said that it happened in the marketplace in Lublin. And so the reason is because there was a certain Beis Din. It was made up of a lot of different rabbis, and they divided up very interestingly. They had like probably 10 rabbis who were there, and they were in the marketplace. The reason being because there were so many Jews doing business over there that they needed someone on hand to be able to, when they had disputes, and they would go to the Beis Din. So it was like they had so much influence and power when it came to the law, because they were from, it was called the Vad Arba Haratzis. It was the gathering of the four lands, meaning it was a lot of people, a lot of rabbis who would come together from different countries, and they decided that this is going to be the basin that decides things that have to do with money and that have to do with different business.
So financial disputes had their own courts or their own branch of court.
Yeah, in this situation, yeah, exactly. Now, it says you're not supposed to take sheikhad, you're not supposed to take bribes. And the question is, where does the word sheikhad come from? So it comes from two different words, being shehu chad, it is one, or shehu chad, that it is sharp. Chad can mean one, echad, or chad can mean sharp. What does it mean that it's one? That it makes a person who when there's bribery, when you give the money when a person gives the money to the judge, God forbid, so that makes them one. It makes them to have the same frame of thought. And so it unifies people in the wrong way, but that's why it's called sheikhad, because it brings one group together and isolates them from the other person, and really the judge is supposed to be impartial. But chad could also mean sharp, meaning that what happens is that when somebody's bribed, he already has an agenda, and so he's not going to do what you're supposed to do as a judge, which is be very, very patient and calm and deliberate when it comes to making a verdict. Right? Someone who makes a verdict very quickly is not doing the appropriate thing as a judge. That's not a good judge. He has to do it slowly. He has to be soft, so to speak, not sharp. So this sheikhad is going to make him sharp. He's going to be very quick. Boom! This is the law, and that's it, because he already has an agenda. He already knows where he wants to go, who he wants to make guilty, and who he wants to benefit. So those are the two reasons. Here's a really interesting thing about bribery. In places like Russia and different places where there was a lot of decrees against the Jewish people, there was a lot of bribery going on. And the reason, and there's even a reason to say why it's okay, because if you know for example, let's say you know that you're right, you know that somebody stole money from you, but you can't prove it, and you know that the judge is because, let's say in Russia,
the judge is influenced by the people who are crooks.
Not just that, even if, let's say, right, somebody he'll want to, because he has a fellow Christian, right? They're the same religion. So he's going to want to take his side. He's going to feel bad for him. It's going to be hard for him to go and say the Jew's right. So when you know the cards are stacked against you, so then, especially, when it came to, in Russia, there were a lot of times when they were making decrees that Jews can't keep certain mitzvahs. So they would bribe officials so that they should abolish those decrees. So in those cases, that was necessary. And, a place like this where we have, a relatively just system, and there's checks and balances, and there's the law is much more, it's much harder to get away with a lot of this kind of stuff. People are going to hold you accountable, so therefore over here, bribery would not be okay, because we live in a fair country, relatively, There's actually a story of Reb David Deitch. He was also a great rabbi, and he was asked by one of the judges, how come you guys bribe so much? So he said that because we're so different than you, and because there's this automatic animosity towards us, so therefore all we're doing is we're just leveling it, we're making it even now. By bribery now there's an actual even chance. So this isn't necessarily condoning bribery, but it's explaining why it happens so much. And this judge actually, he accepted. He was like, it actually makes sense. Yeah. I'm just reading some of the comments here. Apparently, one of the comments says, the description of the police during Shalosh Regalim because of the chiyuv to drink wine because of simcha is interesting. It seems that during the Yom Tovim, there were police around because since there's an obligation to drink wine, people would drink too much and they would need police to put people in their place.
Kind of like what was going on with Super Bowl around here.
Well, right. Meaning when
People are excited.
When you know people are going to
Yeah.
drink, the police have to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure as a bocher, you remember the times when you were allowed to drink wine. You guys would drink a lot. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell it how it is.
I mean, I guess when it comes to wine, yeah, I don't like hard alcohol. But wine is really great. Yeah, I like wine. Yeah, my friends give me a hard time. They're like, they're all making l'chaim and whiskey. And I'm like, I don't want. Like, whatever. I'm not going to say.
So
what
they
say.
force you to drink.
No, whatever. If I want to, I do. If I don't, I don't. But yeah. What else do we have here? Oh, here's something interesting. So it says, what happens if, let's say, there's a few candidates to be a rabbi in a city, and one of the candidates, he became the rav, and then we find out that their family bribed people to vote for him. So the votes were rigged, right?
Right.
It's very relevant according to some people, definitely.
Well, first thing is first. They have to reverse every single thing that he has done since he got that position. That's first of all, which is going to be very hard to do. Because think of how many people, how many cases he was not fair to. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. So.
But I'm curious to know what would be the punishment to this Rab.
Well, it depends. It depends if he knew or not. It could be that he didn't even know,
Okay.
and that his family orchestrated the whole thing.
Okay.
But this actually happened, and the Chassam Sofer was sent this question. And the Chassam Sofer number one, first of all, said, try to figure out a way where you can take care of this in a peaceful manner.
Okay.
That's number one. And then he said that if you have witnesses, you can prove that it actually happened. So then you have to redo the whole, you have to redo the elections. And if the rabbi knew about it himself, so then he can't become a rabbi. He's not eligible to be a rabbi until he does teshuvah. Now, I guess how you know he does teshuvah is an interesting question, but that's basically the rule. So just an interesting. I guess
cool.
what would happen if we found out the elections were rigged in the country? Like what would
Don't get me started on that.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? In America, I think a civil war was overdue a long time ago.
This is not a politics thing. We're gonna ramp away from
Exactly. That's why you don't want to know my opinion.
I did ask for it. It's true. Okay, now we're gonna talk about some nice things here. Okay. Oh, the thumbnail, by the way, was also this week. I'm reading the comments here. It says the Rambam's description is similar to a mechitza and shul idea. What were we just talking about? Mechitza and shul. I don't know. Maybe he'll explain in the comments. Okay.
He's right. First of all, that rabbi will be separated from everybody else. Wouldn't he? He would be separated from everybody else for doing what he did.
I don't know what he's saying this in regards to. So, but I'm sure he's listening, so he'll explain. So now it says tzedek tirdaif. It says you're supposed to run after justice, and you have to make sure that everything you're doing is just. So a very interesting thing here is that Rabbi Akiva Eger was one of the greatest rabbis of his time, and really in all of history. His signature, he made his signature with a scale and weights, and he had these words, tzedek tirdaif. He had the words of run after justice. And that's how he signed his name. And he was obviously he was a great rabbi. He had a lot of many questions and answers regarding these types of things regarding financial rulings.
Disputes,
according to halacha. And now we're talking about people's signatures. There's a lot of other interesting signatures that rabbis and different holy people had. Rabbi Avraham Azulai, we're going to talk about him. There's a story about him because we're mentioning him. That was the thumbnail, the clickbait. Rabbi Avraham and the Sultan's sword. It's a really, really cool story. He's the Chida's grandfather. He was saved by a miracle from a shipwreck. He was on a ship, and the ship was capsized, and somehow he was saved. I don't know the exact story. Maybe we'll have another opportunity to talk about it. But he would sign his signature with a ship to commemorate this miracle. Which is funny. I was thinking I would have probably done something else because the ship is what almost made me die. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding.
What if because of this near-death experience, he had an epiphany and it
was just
he became who you never know.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding around. But
I get what you're saying. I mean, but whatever, to each his own.
No, I mean, obviously this is the easiest way to memorize. What are you going to do? You're going to do an ocean? Boat? Yeah.
Just waves, yeah.
Waves.
What is this supposed to be?
Yeah. And here's something else really interesting. It says that the house of David HaMelech, so the kings, right? Anyone from that lineage, they actually had a fly. They would either, I don't know if it was a signet ring or if it was their signature, but it was a fly.
Like a family crest?
Yeah, I don't know. It was like the house of David HaMelech
Was a fly.
That lineage, they fly, and it's very interesting. He suggests in the sefer that I learned from that because there's something interesting about a fly. It says that if you take a fly that's dead and you put it in the sun and throw burnt ashes on it, it'll come back to life.
No way.
This is what it says in the Medrash. Now, what that actually means, and I don't know. So he says that maybe the reason why David HaMelech's family has.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
That what?
Because Mashiach is supposed to come from a lineage of David HaMelech.
Exactly.
Reincarnation, bring him back to life.
So even though it looks like that right now the lineage, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Yehuda HaMelech, David's dynasty is dead, it's done. That's what it looks like. This fly is a reminder that just like a fly really always has a chance to come back based on this formula, so too, really, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim, the really lineage of David is alive and well, and we're just waiting.
Did it specify what kind of ashes? Ashes of what? Ashes of who?
It says Efer Mikla. I think it just means of anything that grows. I think it's like if you I think it's any ash of a tree, a bark, whatever.
Interesting. Maybe I'll give it a try.
You're gonna, yeah.
I got a lot of fly catchers over here, so a lot of these flies already died out. So give it a try. I'm just kidding, guys.
We know you're kidding. Don't worry. People come in here, they're gonna see
they're gonna be like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Ashes in the air.
They're gonna think I lost it.
All right, so now let's talk about. Oh, and it says Rav had one of the Amaras in the time of the Gemara. His was a fish, and the Chida was a ship, which is interesting because the Chida is Rabbi Avraham Azulai's grandson, so it probably was passed down that he also had the same signature as his grandfather.
I think Yosef also had a fish, represented his family. There was also the bull, but I believe Yosef or maybe one of his sons had a fish representing his family crest.
I mean, we know that Yaakov Avinu's blessing was that Menashe and Ephraim should be like the fish.
Right. So that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
They should be plentiful like fish.
Right.
And then the last signature we see here was the Trumas Hadeshen, so a great rabbi, and his signature was, or his seal, I don't know, was that of a lion. But now we're going to talk about Rabbi Avraham Azulai. Rabbi Avraham Azulai was a very great rabbi. Mm-hmm. He lived in Hebron, I believe. I don't know if it was Kiryat Arba or Hebron, but they're right next to each other. And the story goes like this. The Sultan, one of the sultans who conquered, at that time, who had conquered, had many, many lands. I don't even know the timeline. I don't know my history and when these things happened. But the Sultan who was in charge at that time, he would always go and visit these different places like different monuments, different important places. Mm-hmm. And so obviously one of the places for both Jews and Muslims is the Ma'ar Samachpela. Mm-hmm. The place where Adam and Chava and the Mishnah, right? The forefathers are buried.
It's a holy place for all religions.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And he went into the place, and there's different halls. There's the hall of Yitzchak, there's a hall of right. So there's a hole in one of the area places, a little circular hole, and that's actually the way to get into the tombs.
Okay.
And it's a since that's the entrance, it's like everyone goes to see it. So the Sultan went over, and he peered over, and he had a really beautiful sword.
I heard the story. Oh, that's why it sounded familiar. Okay, I heard the story. Yeah, he dropped. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So he dropped the sword. It fell
Mm-hmm.
in there, and he hears the clank, and he realizes his sword fell. So now he tells his officer to make sure that somebody goes and gets it. And
no matter who goes down, they die.
yeah,
They
every
bring
single
them up.
soldier who goes down, they hear screaming, they bring him up and they're dead. And it sent enough soldiers to realize that, they can't send any more soldiers, they're all going to die. So then the Sultan says, well, then who's going to find to get my sword? Mm-hmm. So somebody suggests, put a Jew in. If he dies, nobody cares. And if he gets it, and if he doesn't die, you'll get your sword. Mm-hmm. And it was really, it's a really cruel thing, but it was a reality then, So they send a message that they have to bring a Jew. So the Jew, who are they going to give up? How are they going to give one of their own? Nobody knows what to do, and they're praying and they're fasting. And Rav Avraham Azulai decides he's going to go. He was the leader. He was the rabbi there. And he says, I'm going to be the one. And he prayed. He went to the mikveh. And he put on white clothing, like a person when they put them to pass away, when a person passes away, they put them in tachrichim.
A white robe.
In shrouds. Mm-hmm. And he prepared to go under. They lower him. He reaches the ground. He looks up and he sees three holy men standing there, and they say, we are the forefathers who are Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So he says, I don't want to go back up. I'm with you. What do I want to go back there for? So they say you have to go back because if you don't, then the Jews are going to be in danger. Then they're going to send more Jews down. But don't worry, in 7 days you're going to come back to be with us.
Oh, wow.
So he goes back up, they bring him up. He gives the Sultan his sword. The Sultan was very happy. And those 7 days, he taught his community everything that he was able to. The next 7 days, day and night, he stayed up and he taught them as much as he can because he's passing on what he knows to his congregation. And after 7 days, He passed away in his sleep, and he was buried in the cemetery near the Amar Machpelah in Hebron.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the story.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
I got goosebumps, bro.
But
Imagine you're going down in the cave, pitch black. Nobody knows what everybody's dying from. It's just the thought. It's like crazy.
yeah,
But he knew exactly what he was doing.
yeah, it's a crazy story, and this is the Chida's grandfather. Holy people. Anyway, it's time for me to move. Guys, whoever was able to make it, you guys are awesome. You gotta take us out, Ilya.
Thank you very much for everybody who tuned in. Hopefully you find these videos informative and
Entertaining.
you are always welcome to watch. Please, how do they call them? Share,
Subscribe.
share and subscribe.
Smash the like button.
That's right, smash it. And we will see you next week. Good Shabbos to everyone. Thank you very much.
We love you guys. Shabbos.